Another text for you, Dr. Williams. Hello, Walter. My name is Devin, and I'm a 25-year-old half-black and half-white male from Virginia. I was just wondering what your opinion is on the new political correctness movement and the sudden cry of cultural appropriation from self-proclaimed allies of minorities.
Well, I think we should ignore the so-called politically correct strictures. When people say to me, well, Williams, you can't say that. Oh, I say, well, damn if I can, because the First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees me the right. And so I think that what we ought to do is ignore these people that are demanding that we change our language to accommodate some particular values that they might have.
Front page of the New York Times recently was this article about Halloween. Costume correctness on campus. Feel free to be you, but not me. And it's an article about what is acceptable. And Pocahontas, Caitlyn Jenner, and Pancho Villa are no-nos. Also off limits are geisha girls and samurai warriors. But you can be a Crayola crayon, a cup of Starbucks, or Where's Waldo?
Wow. So basically just be nothing. Just basically be nothing. Wow. Basically be nobody, no nothing. Because everything is so sensitive, you cannot say anything. Wow.
I think that's really going very far. I think our grandparents would be
Very far. I don't know, this probably was a couple of years ago. I would just guess like 15 years ago. And he was thinking it was far. We're here now. Wow.
shocked by the kind of things that we accept as
It's crazy.
that we just accept today. I think we should ignore it.
Do you see political correctness at George Mason?
Probably so, but I ignore it there as well. I don't see it in any of my classrooms, and I'm not politically correct at all. I say whatever I want to say, and my colleagues tolerate me. I've been there. I think I started my 35th year there.
Steve in Arlington Heights, Illinois, texts into you. Can you speak to the anti-Confederate hysteria currently sweeping the nation?
Yes, I think that I think people don't really understand much of the history of our country. And just very briefly, and this is on my website and my articles, and I talk about this, and that is in 1783, there was a Treaty of Paris, and the Treaty of Paris ended the war between the colonies in Great Britain. And if you read the Treaty of Paris, it says that there are 13 sovereign nations. That is, each state was a nation. And these states came together as principles in 1787, and they created...
Oh, I didn't know that. Sovereignty nations. Oh, I didn't know that. That's very interesting. So, back then, just to people understand, sovereignty means that you're not under no wings, right? I don't know what sovereignty, probably with the capital S, non-capital, I don't know. But sovereignty means that you can auto-govern yourself, basically. To say in the Paris Treaty that there were sovereign nations, not nation. Probably the language was later shift a little bit. I would like to know where it's going with this.
The federal government as their agent.
Oh, federal. Okay.
And principals can always fire their agents. And so, and if you read
Okay.
the ratification documents of Rhode Island, New York, and Virginia, they specifically say in the documents that if the federal government becomes abusive of the powers that we have delegated to the federal government, we have the right to rescind those powers. That is, we have the right to secede. And so most Americans do not understand the they think that the war was solely to end slavery, but the war was for much more than that. And so, but however, the winners of any war write its history.
Ooh.
And so the Confederacy has just they've gotten really a bad name, and I think that I think that this anti-Confederacy movement is just maybe one more.
Okay, it makes sense. If you were the North, you're going against the South, more poor people. They probably have slavers, slaves down there. You're not gonna tell them that you were benefiting yourself from that so-called slavery down the South. You want to appear as a virtual signal. I mean, when things comes down, you're not gonna say that, right? You're gonna just simply say that the war was simply because of slavery. I mean, I would like him to. I would love him to go deeper on that.
One more step towards, towards abolishing many of our symbols. Now, one can argue whether the Confederacy was right in seceding, and you don't have to be for slavery. You can be against slavery, but that's an independent argument. Did they have the right to secede? And all the evidence suggests, yes, they did have the right to secede because the states were principals and they came together and created the federal government. That is, most Americans today they virtually think that the states are a creation of the federal government. And matter of fact, that's the way Congress acts, that the states are a creation of the federal government, but it's actually the opposite.
All right. Let me see. Wow. Ooh, let me see. How can I? The federal government is a creation of the state. It makes sense. States pay taxes. Federal taxes. If the states decide not to pay federal taxes, the federal government can collapse. So it makes sense. Now, I think maybe the argument was correct when the Civil War happened. Hear me out. The state, let's say, succeeded the Union. But A. Lincoln said, no, it's unconstitutional. Right? I don't know what the courts say during those times, but based on that, if the president says it's unconstitutional, and it seemed like the courts gave him the benefit of the doubt, that means that even the secession was not legitimate. Because if it was legitimate, will we succeed, right? They will not be part of the United States. But even because the war happened, A. Lincoln kept the Union, that makes it nullify. That when you're part of a union, you cannot, United States, right? You cannot succeed the Union. And that's what clarified after the Civil War. I think that argument itself was clarified in the Civil War. Maybe before the Civil War, you couldn't make the argument. There was a place to succeed the Union, but during the Civil War, if you have one side telling you, no, you never succeeded the Union, it's just unconstitutional, right? It's unconstitutional. You cannot succeed. We're gonna just keep the Union. That made it itself a valid argument. Now, the reason because the South want to succeed, it clearly was more than just slave. A slave is just the beautiful picture to just put it out there, make it easier for people. It was more than that. I mean, taxes one, representation. The North were just getting a lot of profit from the South, right? And there were no representation at the same level. I'm not talking about representation by Congress and Senate. I'm not talking about that. A lot of people from the North were just getting a lot of money from the South, and they felt that, their way of living was threatened, and they decided to go against the federal government. My question is, if the South won that election, would they still be fighting against whatever they were fighting? Of course not. Because they lost the election, they want to just fire the war. That's how politics works. I might be wrong. Let me just know in the comment below. That's just my opinion. But the argument is, if it was before the Civil War, maybe they have an opportunity to succeed. After the Civil War, where they succeeded supposedly, and the federal government said no, it's unconstitutional. And I think in the movie Lincoln, I think there's an intervention between Ulysses Ulysses Grant and one of the guys. I think it's the Secretary of State from the Confederacy, and he talked about sovereign nation. And Grant said, like, no, whatever two people, private citizens, talk about has no weight in the legal realm. And that's why he tell, like, you guys are rebels. You guys are not sovereign nations. You see, there's two languages there. The North see the South as a rebel. They're still part of the nation. They're still rebels. The South see the North as a sovereign nation, right? So who won the war, who won the legal, the battle, that case was the North. Right? I don't know, very interesting. I think he does say that, there was a legitimate reason why they attacked, or they wanted to succeed in the Union. They probably, they were probably struggling the South. That might be the reason. Or maybe the South was, the South might be too greedy. They wanted to just get more. Who knows, man? And maybe slavery was too much in the South, Could be a lot of reasons, man. I have no idea. I'm not a very well-rounded person in that area, but I have an idea. And even though they were in the Civil War, they still have some representation in Congress, because they wanted to keep the nation going on. And I was not in favor with the North or the South, none of it. I just follow how each leader handled their position. Love to read some of the Abraham Lincoln's letters, Ulysses Grant letters as well, and Lee letters as well. And they were all three brilliant American heroes. I don't care what people say, whether there was in the South and North. I don't care. They were American heroes, and they did what they needed to do at that time. And you cannot judge it, because maybe you feel this way today, and you might do something today that you think was correct, and maybe people in the future will judge it differently. But in the time, for them, was the right thing. Hey, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Walter Williams' position, my position. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna really appreciate it.